In the second part of my analysis of the treatment of Jews under Islam, I'll be going over the case of Safiyyah bint Huyay, the Jewish wife of the Prophet, and how Muslim apologists like Mohammed Hijab use her case to argue for the legitimacy of the prophethood of Muhammad. Mohammed Hijab, for example, brings up this case of Safiyyah as a demonstration of the Prophet not being anti-Semitic. But this is an atrociously bad argument, so let's take a look at it. By the way, if you haven't seen the first part of the series, I recommend that you do so first before watching this to better understand the context of this video. All links are in the description.
The key point here is that if this were the case, if there was some kind of inherent bias or racism towards Jewish people of Jewish ancestry, then why would it be the case that the Prophet Muhammad himself would marry Safiyyah bint Huyay, who was of Jewish ancestry, and indeed her father was one of the chieftains of the Jewish tribes?
Okay, so this has a very simple answer. He married her because she was beautiful. Simple as that. Let's remember that Muhammad didn't go out seeking a Jewish wife to build bridges with the Jewish community there. His army had just defeated the Jews of Khaybar, and among the enslaved women of the tribe there was also Safiyyah, who had the reputation of being very beautiful. So Muhammad chose Safiyyah for himself and then later freed and married her. We can read the report of it here in the authentic narration from Sahih al-Bukhari. Then we reached Khaybar, and when Allah enabled him to conquer the fort of Khaybar, the beauty of Safiyyah bin Huyay bin Akhtab was described to him. Her husband had been killed while she was a bride, so Allah's messenger selected her for himself and took her along with him till we reached a place called Sud as-Sahba, where her menses were over, and he took her for his wife. So the reason is explicitly provided here in this authentic narration from Bukhari. Muhammad married her because of her beauty. He didn't marry her to show his respect and tolerance for the Jewish community, because he had just finished exterminating it. But since Muhammad ended up marrying Safiyyah, Muslim historians came up with a very amusing take on how Safiyyah, who was a Jewish woman, ended up becoming the wife of the Prophet. This is the incident as reported by the Muslim historian Ibn Saad in his Tabaqaat. So the Prophet said to her, "Make your choice. If you will choose Islam, I will select for you for myself, and if you choose Judaism, I will set you free and send you to your people." She said, "O Allah's Messenger, indeed I longed for Islam and testified for you even before you gave me this invitation when I came to you. I have no guardian among the Jews, neither father nor brother, and I prefer Islam over disbelief. Allah and His Messenger are dearer to me than freedom returning to my people." You can see Muslim preachers and apologists like Sheikh Omar Suleiman repeating this narration uncritically in his lecture about Safiyyah.
Look at what the Prophet ﷺ does. The Prophet ﷺ says to her, "Ikhtari, I give you the choice. فإن اخترت الإسلام أمسكتك لنفسي وإن اخترت اليهودية فعسى أن أعتقك فتلحقي بقومك." He said to her, "Look, I'm going to give you the choice." This is again a noble gesture from the Prophet ﷺ to her. He says to her, "If you become Muslim, I'll keep you with me, and if you choose to remain amongst the Jewish tribes, if you choose to retain your Jewish religion, then I'll send you back to your people free. I'll actually free you and send you back to your people." This is a noble gesture that is not expected of the Prophet ﷺ by any means, right? That, okay, you're a noble woman, and you don't seem to be someone who did anything wrong, so you have a choice. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ said that, and this is important in the context, when he said that I will keep you, the context, or what she understands from that, is that the Prophet ﷺ will take her as a captive, if she becomes Muslim, or the Prophet ﷺ will free her, if she retains her religion. So she says, "Ya Rasulullah, لقد هويت الإسلام وصدقت بك قبل أن تدعوني حيث صرت إلى رحلك وما لي في اليهودية أرب وما لي فيها والد ولا أخ." So she says to the Prophet ﷺ, "Ya Rasulullah, I have longed for Islam, and I testified to your prophethood before you invited me to this religion." And she said, "I have no guardian amongst my tribe. I have no father there, I have no brother there. No one is left for me amongst my people." And she says, وَخَيَّرْتَنِي الْكُفْرَ وَالْإِسْلَامِ. And she said, "You're giving me a choice to basically remain upon disbelief or to become a Muslim. This is the choice that I'm hearing from you. So it sounds bad because I'm either going to be a captive and a Muslim, or I'm going to be free and upon my other religion." She's saying, "I actually want to become Muslim." So she says, "In that case, فَاللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِنَ الْعِتْقِ." Allah and His Messenger are more beloved to me than freedom.
Okay, so why does Safiyyah have no guardian among the Jews? What happened to her father, brother, and husband? Oh, that's right. Muhammad's army had killed them all. This is reported by Muslim scholars themselves. Here is what Imam Hakim narrates in his Mustadrak about Safiyyah's family members, and this report has been authenticated by Imam Dhahabi. It states, Abu Hurairah narrated, when the Prophet was lying with Safiyyah, which means he was like in bed with her, Abu Ayyub stayed the night at his door. When he saw the Prophet in the morning, he said, God is great. He had a sword with him. He said to the Prophet, O Messenger of God, this young woman had just been married, and you killed her father and her brother and her husband. So I did not trust her not to harm you. The Prophet laughed and said, good. Again, all references are in the description below, so you can see the original Arabic for yourself. So the woman whose father, brother, and husband were killed by the Prophet is just casually mentioning that she has no guardian among the Jews. Yeah, no shit. I wonder what happened to them. The cognitive dissonance here among Muslims is just stunning. They simultaneously narrate that Safiyyah's entire family was killed by the Prophet, but also that she secretly longed for Islam even before becoming Muslim, and that she preferred being enslaved to the person who killed her family as long as she got to be a Muslim instead of living freely with her own Jewish tribe. This all makes sense to them in this bizarre fantasy world they live in. Anyway, coming back to the core point. Muhammad's marriage to Safiyyah doesn't in any way indicate his fondness for the Jews. Muhammad simply married her because of her beauty. It's utterly absurd for Hijab to bring up Muhammad's marriage to Safiyyah as an argument for the Prophet's pro-Semitic views, especially because there are numerous explicit statements made by Muhammad about Jews which show precisely the opposite. I will be going over these in detail in the next part of my assessment.